Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest monologue. And today I'll talk about something that a kind of chicken that's come home to roost for many of us, and it's about the dangers of binary, the um, binary narrative. The world, in so many ways, finds itself in the binary narratives today, because you are against this, you are against that, you are pro that. The implication that if you are pro this, you are against that. And I'll pick a story from my personal professional experience. The year 2019, I went to Washington D.C. with some colleagues from Survival International. We were to talk to U.S. government officials about human rights violation in conservation, particularly the projects funded by US money. My thinking, or my familiarity with US politics from a layman's, Kenyan's point of view, is that the Democrats were the people going to help us, because the Democrats are the ones who care about human rights. They're the ones who care about people of color, etc., etc. This was my binary narrative that I'd grown up on, and even with all my reading was still what I was familiar with. So we got there. First thing, we could hardly get audience with any, or a fair hearing from any Democrat members in the House of Representatives. Um, the only We only managed to get some traction because at the time the Republicans were majority in that particular house, and this is why all the Democratic politicians were so, because they're environmentalists, they were so in love with the Nature Conservancy, WWF, and all Conservation International, and all these other big finance companies in quasi conservation organizations that were actually finance companies, and they were always get got invited to the junkets by these organizations. Some of their campaigns got funded by these organizations, and they wouldn't listen to us. So if you're going to say something against the Nature Conservancy, good luck to you if you expect a Democrat to give you any hearing. So anyway, we got our traction and we got our hearings done. Later on, we got to meet, to visit the office of the Foreign Relations Committee, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey, because a lot of the money being funded, US money being used for projects outside the country, they had a say in it. And we got to his office, and the senior staffer in his office, Mr. Josh Klein, told us very proudly that through their legislative channels, they had managed to appropriate $10 billion of US money to be used on environmental causes every year. 10 billion every year. And my colleagues and I immediately realized that this is the source of the money that all these human rights violators are tapping into, or that's driving all these injustices. And we asked Mr. Klein, how is this money being disbursed? Is it being given to governments, communities? Who is it being given to? And he couldn't tell us. We, of course, knew it's going to conservation organizations, but he had no idea. He only knew about the amount. And this was the lacuna at the highest level. So all my assumptions were shot out of the water then, because it it's always been assumed that if the binary narrative in conservation has been, if you care about nature and about animals, you won't care about the policy or human rights violations. And that's why, even bring it home to Kenya today. Um, that's why KWS gets away with extrajudicial killings and other rights violations, because we assume to speak out against KWS injustices means you don't care about wildlife. I'm a wildlife biologist, and I'm awfully proud of the wonderful wildlife we have in Kenya, but I can't stand the way KWS regularly violates the rights, not, I shouldn't say human rights, but only the rights of indigenous Kenyans. KWS never violates any foreigners' rights. And this is what we must avoid in all our fields. Look at the COVID pandemic that sort of took hold shortly after that particular visit to the US. Suddenly they came out like, oh, we must panic, we must stay home. And you're asking basic logical questions. You remember the mantra, stay home, stay home. What do you stay home and do? You need to work, you need to feed yourself, you need to go and see your child. If your child is in a different place, you need to get around. Mankind, in the history of mankind, we have never existed while as stationary in one place. Never. So when someone says stay home, that was illogical. But when you question it, you're called, there are these labels, anti-vaxxers or conspire. No, in fact, then before anti-vaxxers came out when the so-called vaccines came out. Then they'd call you a conspiracy theorist in a negative manner because you ask simple questions. I mean, there was violations of basic human logic everywhere you looked. You'd go to the airport and it would be strictly enforced in the lobby. You must have be social distancing at least 2 meters apart. Strictly enforced, and you could be arrested. But we are those of us who are commoners. We are checking into the plane to sit in economy class. We are exactly 1 centimeter apart, if that. We're probably elbows are touching. But no one would question this because we had a binary narrative. You're either you're either a conspiracy theorist or you are a sensible human being who's interested in human health. And it goes all the way to politics and all different things. And look at the US election and the world's reaction to it are probably some of the starkest evidence of this the stupidity of this binary narrative we have. Um, the new US president, one of the worst violations of human rights in history and biggest scams in human history is this carbon credits nonsense. And for all his other faults, he's poked holes in that. He's cut off funding towards that. And because I know even from my technical expert standpoint that all the money put towards carbon credits has 0.0% effect on carbon emissions that are destroying our environment or destroying our climate. I know carbon credits is just money laundering, but it's thought that if you care about environment, you cannot question carbon credits because there's a binary narrative there, a cult-like binary narrative that you have to believe in it or not. We come to things like AI. AI at a basic level is helpful. The also autocomplete basic levels like autocomplete on Google that picks up what I'm searching and completes it for me and searches it for me. But it gets insidious when our devices pick up our speech and you open social media and you find what you are talking about being advertised there, yet you weren't talking about buying it, you didn't care about it. Look at on the Facebook feeds today, anybody who's on Facebook, how much AI generated bullshit is there on your Facebook feed before you actually meet a post by one of your friends about something you're actually interested in. Those who generate art from AI for whatever purpose. AI, people are very excited about it in the beginning because it would pick it would pick material from real art and combine it to make some sort of chimera that you might find pleasing. But AI has now started picking stuff from other AI sources. It's sort of inbreeding and presenting rubbish to us. How many AI generated random emails do you receive? Read an article, newspaper article online. At the bottom, how many ridiculous AI generated nonsense pieces do you see at the bottom of that article? Someone telling you that because it picks up that you're a man. You find out that there's someone selling, there's some new secret herb that's supposed to increase sexual performance or make you grow taller or stupid things like that. And it's just this, these are things. And when you speak up against AI, you find the stupid binary narrative thinkers are telling AI is here to stay, or mantras like AI is the future. These things don't mean anything. We must strive for more sophistication than that. In Kenyan politics, when you question those who question things that many things that the government is getting wrong, many people, especially those who are who exposed their who had exposed at one point or another their support for those currently in government, you often get this, but you voted for them. You shouldn't complain now. You should have voted for someone else. This ridiculous binary thinking, because the person they're telling you that the person they're suggesting you should have voted for has now joined the said government. It's like the moot debate going on in parliament now about which party is the majority. It doesn't matter, because the one that should have that was the opposition has now joined the government. So what does it even matter? But this, because we become binary thinkers and we become victims of positions. um we think position, I'm pro this country. I agree with this what this country does in one field. I can disagree with what they do in another field. I mean, if you question what the state of Israel does, you're called anti-Semitic. That's not, you're just simply a defender of human rights and the rights of indigenous people. But these labels that are brought up by the stupidity of binary thought are what cannot allow us to think, especially those of us who are lazy. You even find Christians who say, because of their religious beliefs, the God of Israel and all that, so they can't speak up against any human rights violations in Israel. You're a small-minded binary thinker if that's what your position is. If you want to, if one wants to support, feels that they should support the human rights violations, then just come out and say it. You support that state, but not the Bible says that A, B, C, D, this, that, the other. If you stand for, if you are a conservationist, you support, you love nature, you love wildlife conservation. That is great. That's wonderful. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't speak up against KWS's human rights violations. You must seek, we must seek better sophistication. Because if you think about it, the stupidity of binary thinking even manifests in tribalism and racism. You see so many Kenyans, so many Kenyans are victims of this. You see so many Kenyans even discussing um, Honorable Raila Odinga's participation in the AUC election. They discuss it in the context of tribes in Kenya. No one out there cares, knows or even cares about the tribes in Kenya. These are continental contests. But because you're a binary thinker, your mind has atrophied to that level that you cannot see anything outside that prism of this tribe or the other. Again, there is the environmental science, the issue of sustainability. Because someone says something is sustainable doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's good. And sustainability people are the ones pushing carbon credits because they say it's good. They're the ones pushing solar farms because they say it's good. And solar farms are occupying huge tracts of land in Africa. If you go to Europe, the solar panels are on roofs. A building that is housing somebody and a solar panel on the roof. Perfect. In Africa, they put solar panels on the ground, curtailing animals from grazing on that area, humans from farming on that area, because it's a solar farm. You look at Lake Turkana wind farm, touted as this huge renewables project. They've fenced that huge area where the turbines are, and people can't use it for farming or grazing or just whatever they want to do. But because you believe in sustainability and your stupid binary thinking believes that we must save the world, it's okay to violate the rights of the people in Marsabit because it's being done to save the world. It's okay to abduct or even kill people in national parks because it's important. It's important to protect rhinos from black people. This is the danger of binary thinking. Let's seek sophistication. Not even seek sophistication. We have sophistication because we have brains that can analyze things. But let's stop being lazy and let's embrace sophistication. When someone There can be someone who's a demagogue in one way but does something right in another way. Let's call out what's right, let's call out what's wrong, and and push or support what's right. That is why we have brains. Two positions, the binary thinking, it's extremely lazy, it's foolish, and in many ways it's behind so many of the social problems we face in the world today. Let's think about it and stop taking binary positions on issues that affect our lives. The world is more complicated than that, and that's why we have brains, and we shouldn't turn our back on this sophistication because that's what makes humans supposedly an intelligent species. And in my field of conservation, we are probably the worst offenders in this manner. When you find people with PhDs in conservation science coming up with stupid solutions like fencing a whole of Mount Kenya forest as a conservation project, forgetting that people need to go up there to pray, to gather wood, fuel, medicinal plants, dry season grazing, all these different things. And we think we can keep even elephants going there to give birth and come out back to the savannas when their calves are strong enough. But these supposedly learned people are stupid enough to build a fence because they think that that's a solution to that's a good conservation initiative. And you find binary thinkers in government who support that. Isn't our government today even seeking views on carbon trading regulations? As in, our government is actually putting together regulations to regulate a ridiculous scam. That's what binary thinking does. So let's avoid binary thinking. Let's embrace sophistication, and it will make it much easier for us to negotiate the complexities of this world, as well as acceptance of people who might differ with us on one thing or another. Because it's our thoughts that differ. We are not different from each other. It's our thoughts that are different. And that's what makes our society powerful.